You guys are in for a treat, man. I'm hanging out with Farouk Khan, the legendary coach from, the UJ that you know in Soweto was called Rao. It's the beginning stages of Kaizer Chiefs development. Coach Farouk was there picking up those youngsters. They won some cups, even won something with Santos as a coach. He tells us it's a shortcut to glory, winning a cup because, with Santos, they were not doing too well in the league, but managed to win silverware. That Farouk Khan, of course, with the legendary Tsepo Masilela, Bafana, who doesn't know this left back? Big conversation of is he the greatest left back of the country? He says it's an honor to just be talked about in that fashion. Israel, La Liga. He says Ronaldo ran to the other side when he saw him. So he doesn't have full on one-on-one him and Messi. So that's Sefo Masilela. He's in Haifa. If he walks around in the streets and goes to a cafe, they say it's on us. Thank you very much, Mr. Tsepo Masilela. Are we going to talk PSL awards? You guys better subscribe. You heard those CVs. These are the people that we've got here to keep them around and make sure they engage with you. You subscribe, hit the alert, the bell over there. And of course, join Betway. Use our link and our code SoccerBeat. You get $25 extra. Coach Farouk and Tsepo, we're talking the best performers. And we're talking all elements. We're talking about here, we're talking representing the fans. We're not talking league, cup, champion. We're talking this year. Who gave it to us as the fans? And you guys have given me your best. And I'm gonna start at the top because we know everybody loves the goal scorers. So we'll end with the goal scorers and the best player, goalkeeper. And we can throw in so many names in there. Tsepo, you chose Sipo Chain.
Yeah, for me, I'll go with Tsepo. He's been consistent, and if you look at the season he's had, and also last season, man, look, today he's a Bafana number 2, and he showed you the level of consistency that he's got in him, and he's also 1 point for Pirates. I'm not take nothing away from the other keepers, but my choice will be Sipo for this season.
Coach Farouk, you agreed easily on that one with Tsepo.
Well, I agreed, but I also want to try and justify what Tsepo is saying. But before I do that, I would be failing in saying this. You spoke about Tsepo being the best left back. The mere fact that he played in La Liga says a lot. This is levels. We must never hide the fact. If you play in La Liga, you have to be special with it. That is another it's not a planet, my friend. So let's never undermine people like Tsepo, like the late Shoes Michelle. They played in leagues where when you walk in the stadium, you get goosebumps. Just the atmosphere. So I have to say that before we move on. Coming back to the goalkeeper, let me put you in the mindset of what I say. I always say you are only as good as the players around you. And China didn't play with the best back 4 or back 3, which they commonly did. At times, he had maybe 1 or 2 players that were coming through the ranks. We saw Mbokazi coming through. So that in itself requires lots of quality to deal with. And as we spoke of about Chipazeze, I mean, what a revelation this season to his club and to the fact that they were struggling. And this particular goalkeeper was outstanding. But on the balance of what we're seeing,
yeah,
yes, sir.
And coach, exactly that. The kids are throwing in the clean sheets, the amount of clean sheets that were kept, and the type of team that he plays for. Why does Sipo Chain's clean sheet count more than Chipezeze's clean sheet? And highly likely Chipezeze has to make more saves than Sipo Chain. As you say, he's made by the guys in front of him.
Well, I tell you, you and I and Tsepo knows you could play for Mageze and never get selected for Bafana. And the minute you sign for Chiefs, Pirates, or Sundowns, within a short period, you in the national team. It's just how things work out because you obviously now surrounded with much better quality, and your qualities then start shining out much brighter. So if you take a Chipazeze and he was playing for Orlando Pirates, I'm sure he would also definitely be one to win this particular award. So it's a catch-22 situation where you look at him, you look at Orwin Williams, and you look at China and you say all three outstanding keepers. And there's very little to choose between them because they all have proven beyond a doubt this season that they have contributed significantly to their club. I mean, we were talking relegation with Chipazeze's club at one
Yeah.
stage. We know how he contributed to the cup. I was saying when I was watching the cup, if this guy wasn't between the sticks, I'm sure they would have been knocked out much, much earlier. He made
Mm.
such
Mm.
wonderful saves. But I don't want to make
Mm.
let's keep it just in cup form. We've got to look at it overall, what he's done in the season.
Mm.
And the team that was struggling, I must say, he kept them alive.
Yeah.
And the mere fact that it saved relegation, a lot of praise must go to him.
You know, it feels Ronman's name from day one of the season, Ronman Williams, because of pedigree and walks into this conversation, Tsepo. While Chipezeze, as coaches said, has to do something to be in this conversation.
Yeah, keepers like Ronwen, listen, man, is the Bafana Mzansi's number one. In Africa is the best also. All those things they count. Is the best in Africa right now. And again, like when you play for a team like Sundowns, obviously, because of you playing for a big team, lots of following, and you win trophies also, you win the league, you Champions League final, it comes with all those things. Hence, it's easy to mention or to throw Rowan's name in there. And besides that, he's a fantastic keeper also. Who doesn't we don't doubt his qualities. That guy can play with the ball on his. He's a modern type of goalkeeper. From defense they rely on him on build up. He can play passes that breaks the lines. Straight to the midfield or to Ribeiro to check. Like it's got also those special qualities in him. So that's why his name will always be there. Because of the quality and the team also he plays for.
Now we go to defender. You agreed there as well, Sibisi. You chose Sibisi, but I've got something to ask about fullbacks. I feel like, sure, centre backs are thought of as the first defenders, but Pasadine, he's in a tug of war between clubs. He's in the national team setup. He has proven his team went to the CAF Confederation Cup semi-final. Like, why Pasadine's name is not there, coach?
Well, I think, Basadin being a fullback will obviously be more offensive in most cases. Today, we talk about fullbacks as offensive players who support defense when they have to defend as a team. On the counter attack, we find Basadin defending, but most of the time, you want to see Basadin adding more numbers going forward as an attacking player. Whereas if you look at Sibisi, his mandate or his main role is to defend. He has to be that pillar of strength in defense with the goalkeeper and with his colleague or central defensive colleague. So those three people have the most important mandate defensively. You are the guards of this particular defense, and obviously, players, the fullbacks, support that defensive structure and duties. So if you look at it overall, coming to Supisi, he's ticked all the boxes. We always believe that we need a defender who's 6 foot tall. It's always nice to have a big guy like Miguel at Kaizer Chiefs. But then we're going to look at it. Has he got the other attributes? Is he comfortable on the ball? Can he play out of defense? How many fouls does he make? Does he give away fouls in where the opposition can hurt you? Is he able to deal with quick transitions? Because Orlando Pirates, a very, very offensive game. They play a high line. They play an expensive brand. At times, their midfielders lose possession. We've seen Bata losing possession quite often. We've seen Tito also at times overdoing things and possession. So you always need a very solid defensive line, and that's what CBC gives them aerially as well. We doubted him to be able to He's done fairly well in most of those cases. Although I think Orlando Pirates need to sign a defender to complement them, because remember the time when Chiefs had Tefo Mashamati and the other centre
Morgan
back,
Goals and yeah, Eric Mato,
Mato,
yeah.
played his best football when he played alongside Masha Maiti, because Masha Maiti was more clinical central defender, knew how to play out of defense. I had to spend a year and a half to teach him those fundamentals. And he turned out to be a formidable defender. I'm sorry to claim. I've gone to an extent of explaining to you why Tsepo and I have said that Sibisi is the
Mm.
candidate, and why we believe he should win that award.
And Tsepo, what coach has said, it reminds me of the Sikukuna game, because you could tell Sibisi, Makhala got him and he was on the ground and he was willing to put his, and they said he ate grass, but as a defender, I know what he was doing. He's trying to stop the ball. He doesn't care how. He was on the floor. And what coach is saying really speaks to that. He's willing to sacrifice himself for the team.
Definitely, his commitment, you can't question it. And look how the season started. I think Pirates started with Nda and Sesani, if I'm not mistaken, the young boy, right? That gets injured. They bring in Sibisi. Sibisi goes on with Sesani. They forming a good partnership. Sesani, what happens? He gets a bad injury, long-term injury. Now Sibisi is still there. Comes Koki. Koki is there, Koki was back from an injury. Koki had a long-term injury also. Then now we have Mbokazi also, but SBC is still there standing. It shows you that again to build a understanding and partnership, and then it switches. Now you're getting someone new, but you're still consistent in your game. So we have to give credit where it's due, and that's why I think he deserves it. You can he has maybe he had 3 or 4 different center back partners, but he didn't
Partners.
drop his game. That didn't affect his game or drop his game. So for me, I would also throw in that point. In the Sibisi debate.
He's grooming a young defender. He's teaching him the tricks. He's giving him the experience to show the confidence that Mukazi has been showing is due to the fact that Sibisi is giving him the confidence. A young man, don't worry, I've got you covered. This is how we're going to deal with these things. And that is leadership you want. In your spine, you need leadership from your keeper, your central defender, your central midfielder, and you need a striker. Whereas that spine has to have those qualities. And I think he shows it clearly that he has those qualities.
I don't know how we are not on 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, guys. With such detailed analysis and breakdown. You can see the joy in Coach Farouk talking about how Matoho turned out to be the player that he became when he came as a rough diamond. Describing how Sibisi being a soldier. Tsepo himself was a soldier, a reliable soldier. Having to deal with so many partners throughout the season. And playing for Pirates, we forget this. If you also play for Pirates, the expectations on those players. Midfield, that's always the big conversation. It's dominated by Sundowns in many conversations. Sepano, you chose Tebza Mukwen.
Yeah, Devs. And again, also if you look at Allende, he's always present, he's always giving his best. Also the consistency with him. But they complement one another. If you look at how Sundowns plays. And for me, I also look at, look, Devs, man, he's got different qualities. He can play 6, he can play 8 easily. I don't know. They played against, if I'm not mistaken, Richards Bay. The assist he gave to Salas, it shows you that he's not just he doesn't win the ball back and play it sideways. That's it. He's waiting for, counter or to break down play. He's got that boy is special, man. He controls the
He
game,
breaks it himself.
controls the midfield. Listen, and the goals he scores, man. The goals he scores. He's but again also, I like consistency. Consistency will win you these things. Hence individually they can win you those accolades, or and as a team, if the team is consistent, you're likely to win championship, like the league. So he's got that consistency in him, and listen, man, as I said, he can play 6, he can play 8, and he doesn't lose the ball that easily. If you're playing for a big team, your midfield is very important because that's where you control the game. That's where you manage the game. Your midfielders are key to in your team managing and controlling the pace, controlling the game itself. From build up to the attack, playing departments from the defense, midfield, link up, everything. It's got all those attributes, man. And for me, I'll go with Debs all day, every day.
Coach, Makaula, coach. Makaula Buffett. Makaula Buffett. Coach. But see, if CDC had to deal with partners, this man deals with side chicks and and he deals with it all, coach.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned the Makaula. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I say that. When we decide or when we want to nominate a midfielder, we have to take into cognizance that when you're playing the three midfielders, if you're playing with the three midfield, each of them have different tasks. If you have a number six, his main task is defensive midfield. So his main task is defense and to ensure that he puts the team on the front foot with his passing, his range of passing in different situations. Then you have an offensive midfielder, like a Ribeiro, who is there mainly to join the attack and to contribute to the goals. But then you have what we call a playmaker, which is a Allende type of player. I think sometimes teams forget that if you don't have that balance, you have three players doing the same job, you end up getting nothing done. And I think currently we've seen that with Kaizer Chiefs where they don't have that balance right. I learned this in Brazil many years ago. And the example that I was taught by my professors was that the team that won the World Cup Argentinian team, I think maybe he was still very young at that time, was made up of a number called Galeco. This was
Yes.
of no importance, meaning if Argentina hadn't beaten, I think it was Germany or Holland in that final,
West Germany, West Germany against Rummenigge.
I think it was uh, 70s, late 70s. If they hadn't won there, it would have been a civil war in that country. So everything hinged on their particular victory. So you had Galeco, and he hardly ever crossed the midfield. You had Adiles, that went to Spurs later. He was the phenomenal playmaker. He didn't score many goals, but created many. Then you had Mario Kempes, scored the most goals in the tournament as a number 10. So when we have these awards, it becomes subjective at times that we nominate a player based on being the best midfielder, but not specifying what role. I
What
believe you should have 3 awards for
Makaul.
midfielders: the best midfielder, the best midfielder, and best playmaker. Then we're going to give people the awards. If you look at the late Eitzen Zulel, was the best playmaker you could find. Also scored goal. If you look at some of the other guys that came from his era, it would be unfortunate that if you only pick one player per se. When I look at it, I agree totally with what Tsepo was saying about Mokoena. No. He can play as a centre back, he can play as a number 6, can play as a very versatile. But then, Ribeiro also contributed phenomenally to the season at Samoa. Allegde has also been phenomenal in his own way. So, how do you choose between the three? Because all of them have been phenomenal this season. So, if I say Ribeiro, I won't be wrong. If Tsepo says Mukwege, it won't be wrong. So, it's a matter of opinion, you know. And in the end, let the judges make that decision because their job is very difficult. It's not
Now,
an easy one.
coach. By the way, as he says that Coach Farouk was part of the judging panel of the PSL, so he knows a thing or two about selecting for these awards. So Coach Farouk, I think, having said we may have to split the midfield award. That's what you said. The fans can decide. Let's let the fans decide on that one. Because it's difficult this year. Because as you say, really, I don't think too many people will argue if you choose Makaula. I don't think many people will argue if you choose Debza. I don't think many people argue they choose Allende. They almost, so that's the one to watch. I guess in the real awards of the PSL. And here at SoccerBeat, of course, let's decide how are we gonna do it as per Coach Farouk says. Attacking midfielder, the creative midfielder, and the playmaker, and the number 6, the ones who he has the task of defending. So let's make that decision for Coach Farouk, and obviously we'll follow up on it. Forward, Forward, guys, forward. This one. And I'm wondering why you didn't include Rele in that midfield conversation, but because he's here in the forwards. You know, forward. Ribeiro Costa, midfield or forward. You know, this is where also Coach Farouk, you were saying as well. Rele and Ribeiro, they touch both sides.
Yeah, they touch both sides. I think sometimes formations uh, have a tendency and a dependency on people quoting formations rather than talking about the principles of play. Formations on their own is just a structure, an organization for us as journalists to say how the team is set up. But when the game progresses, those formations disappear. Yeah, you know, Rele becomes an offensive midfielder who becomes an attacker. So what is he? Is he an attacker or is a? We don't have the old cliche where you play with the out and out number nine or two number nine and a 10 up front or 4-4-2. So the formations then really put the thing into a totally different perspective. But as you rightly said, for me, Rele and Ribeiro have been those goals. But now you also have uh, uh, Reines.
Ikram. Yeah.
Igram. I mean, he's there. He's there.
Yeah.
So
And takes a tackle, coach.
this is it. So is Ribeiro a number nine? No, he drops deep. He's a box to box attacker, you know, and he gets on the end of those things. Is Rele a number nine? No, he comes from wide positions. Well, Reyners basically is your typical number nine, if you want to call him that.
Mm, mm,
So if we're
mm.
talking again about attackers, I say all three of them. For me, Rele, as a young player, has been phenomenal. Okay, but now he's with some big boys. He's with some big boys there. He's with the likes of Ribeiro, the Brazilian.
Yes.
Everybody, even if you are not the Sundowns fan, you know, we admire his skills, we admire his abilities, we admire his fishing, we admire his ability to take situations where it looks practically impossible and turn it into goal scoring opportunities. We've seen him creative on the ball, he's got an eye for goal, and he's clinical. You know, so if you're talking about an attacker, he ticks those boxes. The same thing with Rele. I mean, Rele is an up and coming PSL, has hit the ground running.
Tsepo, I have a problem here in that it's not Peter Chaluli's choice whether to play or not. But every time he came on, he scored goals. So I would now gonna count the amount of minutes that he played and not count the goals.
Yes, you have to also look at the minutes or the number of games he's played, man. We can't. It's the whole season. You know, when you say play of the season, it's the whole season. In my opinion, you know, also that counts the number of minutes you've played or the number of games you've played. So I would assume, you know, they're looking at the whole season. You know, so if you don't play much as you can chip in with the goal here and there, but if you don't play the many games, you know, you won't be in the discussion or in the conversation for these awards, in my opinion.
Tough one for Peter to take, man, because I think, yeah, he brought some, I mean, as a striker, he did his job. Just like you said, coach, and number six does the one simple job. And if he does it well, he must get accolades. And I feel as the number nine, that's very few. I think Peter deserves to be in this conversation. Because, and the next one is obviously the coach that makes the decision.
Before you go to the coach, I think to nominate or to give the award to the best attacker, it's quite easy. You look at the stat. You can't argue. If somebody has scored 19 goals in the season, how can you argue that he's not the best striker, irrespective of the fact he may have some quality players around him? That says a lot. So I think it goes without a doubt that the person that will win is going to be the goal scorer who has the most goals this season. You know, the others obviously is debatable.
Of course, of course. Now we're gonna get to the coach who made the decision, and of course we're gonna finalize it with the young player, which he there. It's a. I think the fans must stick around because you know that's a big conversation to have because there's certain elements that count that Coach Farouk highlighted that I want you guys to stick around and hear. You only hear on SoccerBeat, and Coach Farouk spent time, you know, as he said, Brazil, Raul building development. So knowing young players, you know, we've got the right man here. You know, so Coach Cardoso, both of you guys agree, is the one who walks away with this one.
Yeah, look, he came in at a time when the team went through a little bit of a difficult patch. Manova was obviously struggling, and a decision was taken that they're going to replace him, and they brought him in. Fortunately, he has been supported by the likes of Steve Fompela, which I think was very fortunate. A coach who knows our football, who's played the football at the highest level, who can give him the insight to be successful, because coaching people in Portugal and coaching people in South Africa is totally different from a psychological perspective, from a cultural perspective. And these are the things we need to respect our players. You can't say, no, the players must adapt. Even if it comes from China, they must say, no, it's not like that. We have to respect the players, and the players obviously will only gain respect from the coach if they see that he's somebody that utilizes everybody, coaching staff, players, and it creates that harmony and synergy. And I think this is what he's done at Sundowns. But also the fact that he's already won the league comfortably, and in style. So when you win the league like that, they haven't taken over. You're filling big shoes. You're filling shoes that the likes of Pizzo and Ulani or the other guys have left. So it's always easy to say, yeah, but he's got players. Players alone don't win cups. You could have the best players. You still got to get them together. You still have to deal with the egos. You still have to get the harmony of, I'm not playing. I'm a star. How do you deal with it? And only coaches with experience and knowledge will be able to do that. So he's done extremely well in that regard. And also, he's a finalist, in the Champions League. So that says a lot about it. So if you compare him to his compatriots, I think he deservedly would be the one to win that award this season.
I know Coach Jose is in this conversation as well, Tsepo, for what he's done with Pirates and what he's been able to do. But I want to quickly, throw, you know, uh, to throw something in here in this conversation, guys. There's some guys who have an impossible task, and they do things out of the impossible. We can talk Owen Gagama, what he's doing at Magesi, you know, Nabi at Chiefs, the pressure, because they're saying the players are not good enough, but winning a trophy should count for something, just like it does for Magesi. So why is Nabi and Owen Dagama his name, not being in here? Let me start with Nabi first of all, Tsepo. For me, it's been a tough task managing Chiefs, you know. But to come out with a trophy out of all of this, it should mean something.
You know how I look at it. Winning a trophy, I hear maybe they saying it's easy. It's not easy, but it's not a marathon or it's a sprint. I don't know if you get my point. So winning a trophy opposed to winning the league. Winning a trophy, it's something else, man. It's 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 we don't take it for granted, but we all know which one is more tough or difficult to win. So it's Summer Day just tells us that the discussion of why not Nabi, or why not Coach Clinton. I think it's Coach Clinton who won the trophy for Magezi, right?
Clinton, yeah, who won it? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So let's say Coach Clinton wins the trophy, gets fired next week, and now we 5 months after he got fired. So how do we, you know, that's how difficult the league is. You can win a
yeah,
trophy in a space
yeah,
of 2 months, get fired, but
mm,
now we can't throw you in the discussion of
yeah.
coach of the season. Because you only lasted
It's-
3 months.
mm,
MTN
mm,
8, you open with MTN 8,
mm.
you win the MTN 8, you got it
Yeah,
can't
well,
be.
you're
It
playing.
can't be.
If we're playing poker, I would be saying, Trevor, you're playing right into my hand because, coach, it's exactly then the more impossible task has been for Owen Dagama then to get that team out of relegation into an MTN 8 conversation now.
Well, I think several said a mouthful. I was going to use that example. I think you read my mind with Clinton. Clinton won, he got fired. Look at Desmond Masilela, he won with TS Galaxy. He won the cup. He got fired. I won a cup with Santos. I resigned. I came back to Chiefs. So, as such, it didn't make me a candidate for coach of the season. You understand? I mean, I took the team when Mushin left. They were fighting relegation. I was happy just to win the cup. You understand? I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even question the fact that, hey guys, but I won the cup now. So take nothing away. And there's many factors you got to look at. There's an element of luck. Where do we say? So? Whether we admit it or not, it's still a big question mark. The Sundowns game, the goal that was scored, we obviously don't have VAR. Had it been on another time, if they had VAR, we'd be talking something different. So we enjoy the fact that, yes, he's won a cup. It has been long overdue. Chiefs need a cup. We want the team to win a cup because it will instill a lot of confidence. But we've got to be honest with ourselves that I don't think even Coach Nabi wants to be in the company of those people because it would be embarrassing. Based on the fact that I won one cup, irrespective of how I won it, let's not go there. But in fairness, now you're talking about league winners. You were talking about Ribeiro that went to the semi-finals. You know, talk about our friend Oldegama. They took a team from they were also out. They were about to throw the sand. You know, people were already saying the prayers, and then this man he brought he ran out of the coffin. Now that is something that is not to achieve because Les Tsepo says that's a marathon. You know, you don't win one or two games. You have to win many games. And you know, when you look at the log when they took over, all of us said, this team, they're going down as quick as they came up. And look where he is today. He's almost no, but there's possibilities that he could even end
Yep.
up in the top 8.
100%. If you have to respect Coach Owen's work there, man. And yeah, as local coach as well to be in that big conversation, even if just appearance for now. But we'll look forward to that next season and see what he does. The one young player. That's the one. I know. I know. It gets you. You get excited here, Coach Owen, because this is your passion. This one, this area. Msepana, really dominates this conversation. But I want to throw in and say it's a bigger Pirates conversation for me because young players are not fortunate to play 30 matches. So the TLB at Pirates for the time that he came in for what he's done each and every game. He has not had an off day, you know, every time he's on that pitch. Nkota, you know, um, contributions in goal scoring. So that conversation becomes a little bit bigger now when you add the excitement that a young player does bring, besides just playing.
Yeah, is when you mention, TOB, because let him do it again next season, then but obviously we're not doubting his abilities. What we've seen so far, we happy, everyone happy, like, he could have been with the under 20s. Unfortunate he didn't get released. But let him do it again next season, and then we'll sit and have this discussion again. Unfortunately, he got the chance where not too late, but I felt like the number of games, he can't be in the conversation. Nkota, I like Nkota, direct winger, he's got speed, one on one, he's tricky, he's got an eye for goal, but again, I want to see him, do it, being consistent. Consistencies matters. Consistency matters in this discussion of awards, so hopefully we'll see more. Hopefully we'll see more of Mbokazi next season and more from Kota. But really, man, he does it. Also, he does it in big games. Really, it's not just always there, But in big games where they want someone to win them the game, or Pirates is looking, for a player that will come up with something special, touch player, or those moments is always there. He's always there, and it shows you that this young boy is special, man. He's with Bafana, he's also with the national team. And yeah, man, for now, I think really, and I just hope he leaves so we can, get to enjoy the TLBs, the quarters. you know, I think he's shown us enough. Like, in my opinion, I've seen enough. I've seen enough. I just wish that, he get the move. We can go overseas.
I got you. I 100% Sepan. I think he's one of those players that everybody agrees on his excitement and ability, and of course the will to go overseas as well. That he'll probably thrive. Coach Farouk, you think otherwise? Because I'm feeling from Gota here.
Let me try to add what Sabra just said. For me, it's one word: pedigree. Pedigree. Remember, pedigree is what Rele has. No disrespect to Kota, no disrespect to Mokasa. They are good players, but he comes from the School of Excellence. Having been pioneer in the School of Excellence in 1994, we started the School of Excellence. The manager at the time was Neil Tovey, Sam Bata, Kevin Johnson, myself, Manda Mazibuko. We started that project. We produced many players. I don't want to go back into history, but we produce players with pedigree, meaning quality. They can they can stand the test of time. And we've proven that beyond the top, beyond School of Excellence, whether it been at Chiefs, whether it been as the Stars of Africa Academy, whether Sam has been at Sundowns, whether Kevin was at Platinum, these are the people that started this program. So the quality aspect will allow Rene to sustain this performance. No disrespect to Bukazi and Kota, they are good players. But you look at decision making. I looked at Kota the other day when they played against Chiefs, and there were times where the decision making was lacking. He was in a situation where it was easier for him to set up, and he went at a tight angle and he tried to score. And that particular goal could have been the difference with winning the cup and then losing it to Kaizer Chiefs. So what I'm saying is that those are the differences when you talk about developing the complete player and developing a player with talent, but not finishing the cycle, which then speaks to what Tsepo is saying. This youngster can't play in Europe. I seen him. I've sent players to Europe. Really can't play in Europe because he has that X factor. And that X factor you will only gain if you are in a program that prepares you sufficiently. Like old John Mabizela. It's a pity when he went to Spurs, he made nonsense, but he had the pedigree. Where was he? Was it the school? And so too many other players that came out of the School of Excellence. Okay, that's been many years ago, but I think to qualify what Sebo says, this boy stands out. Yes, he stands out. He's special. The goals he scores are not ordinary goals. It takes precision. I mean, it takes a lot of skill. I mean, when he put one pass around one the other day, I think it was I can't remember. I mean, it was like, wow, where's this boy from? From which planet is he from? And this is the quality that I want the viewers to understand that we are not choosing players based on who they're playing. We're choosing players on what we see, and we weigh the odds against comparing apples to apples and saying, look, based on performance, that's all we're looking at. Your performance is there. It doesn't matter who you play for. We are former Chiefs people, but we are not saying give the award to Vilakazi because he's a great bowler. Good player, but he has to still achieve that. And hopefully in the future, he will also achieve that with the right timing.
And as we say that, coach, that means if Puso Ditechane had stayed at Chiefs and become that ball boy and did what he did for Galaxy this season in a Chiefs jersey, he'd be in this conversation.
Yeah, no, phenomenal. I really admire him as well as a player. And I think, Chiefs have a very good scouting network and system. And when they get that to be complemented by the right coaching, I think they will produce top players like Rele. You can't ignore and hide the truth by trying to be diplomatic. If people are good at doing something and the school has done that, then obviously them and there's other institutions around the country that are preparing players for the highest level and they are not failing them. So we have to as clubs realize that talent on its own is not sufficient. It's how you mold the talent. And the country has sufficient talent. We have an abundance reservoir of talent. We need to start emphasizing that we complement that with the right development. I mean, it's not for this topic. I'm going off your topic, but I think it's just proper. Why we so excited about Hele? When I talk about him, I get excited. I want to watch him play. When parents, although I'm watching my two sons playing there, Tito and and what's his name, Shuffle. I also watch Rele. I also watch Rele a lot. So yeah, I mean these are players we want to do well because if they do well, our national team does well.
I couldn't have said it better, coach. And I feel like Tsepo must call Kaiser Jr. there and say, bring back Puso Ditechane. Chiefs have got to be in this conversation. We went down all the awards, and it's hard. It's hard for you guys to recommend anyone from Kaiser Chiefs at the moment. You know, it should be something that that gets everybody thinking. You know, we want, if we're saying these are our top teams must then have the top players. You know, if they don't, then there's something shifty in the conversation. Not that the smaller teams shouldn't have. Like we said, maybe in the next conversation we'll have a conversation about playing for the right team. You know, performing for Galaxy shouldn't count less than performing for a big team. Thank you very much, gents, for your contributions. As I said, Coach Farouk will continue this conversation, especially now that the awards are postponed. We can talk criteria, but we'll let the fans decide on that award for the midfielder of the season. We also have to have the big conversation of player of the season, chance, because I think that one deserves its own show. You know, because there we can throw in, we can go a little bit deeper in our analysis, because I think a lot of you then, you know, will have different views on Rele and Ribeiro's contribution. You know, which defender deserves to be in that conversation. Mukwena, Allende, you know, it can't be just based on goals, guys, and goals contributions, because that's what I'm seeing on social media. You know, goal contributions, baba, yeah. That one is the best. Goal contribution, you know, a tackle should count for something. A save should count for something, you know. So we'll have a bigger conversation on that player of the season, and we'll get back as well with the help of you, the fans, to help us decide on that midfielder of the season as per Coach Farouk, the creative, the anchor man, you know, and the attacking midfielder. Thank you very much. That's us, SoccerBeat. We'll see you guys in the comments and the next one. Thank you. SoccerBeat, what?